Encyclopedia.zone. My name is Dr. Don Jolly. I am a freelance writer and editor whose work has appeared in Penthouse Magazine, the Los Angeles Review of Books, among others. I am also the editor-in-chief of Encyclopedia.zone, the internet's premier home for literary shitposting. Next to me, James Armstrong.
Hello, my name is James. Most people call me James. I'm a former mild-mannered small-town newspaper reporter with a major in political science from the St. Edward's University, and also a part-time comic book reviewer for BatmanOnFilm.com.
Right on. And we've been talking about the 2020 Democratic primary election and the election in general. Just kind of giving a summary of the events that have been coming up and our interpretation about what's going on. We don't have a name for the show, so this is Encyclopedia.zone, but obviously me and James are doing kind of like a subsection thing here. So if you have an idea for the show name, please hit it in the comments. That's what we call engagement. See? That's how that's done, Mike Bloomberg. Anyway, we had the Nevada caucus on Saturday.
And things generally went pretty smooth, although a little...
There were some little irregularities. There were some districts that were thrown to non-Sanders candidates by, because they have this inane system where, they break ties in Iowa with coin tosses, and they break ties in Nevada with playing cards. So there was some inane stuff like that. But, look, the big deal about what happened in Iowa, because, now we've actually gone through... the recanvass has been completed. It wasn't, at the head of anybody's news cycle last week, because everybody was talking about Mike Bloomberg ahead of the debate, and then everybody was talking about Mike Bloomberg after the debate. And I do actually have to issue a correction.
Oh.
Because I did a video last week called Doomberg, where I wrote a little essay about Mike Bloomberg and about what it means to actually have... Because, Mike Bloomberg is not a man. Mike Bloomberg is a corporation. To have a corporation running directly for the nomination of one of the major parties for presidency is this thing that I keep hearing from every Bernie Sanders voter that I've talked to this race keeps saying the same thing. Mask off. Mask off. Mask off. That we are experiencing a mask off moment where there is no more veneer of respectability to American politics.
Oh. Tell me about Bloomberg, Don. Why does he wear the mask?
Yeah, nobody cared who he was until he put on the mask.
Yes, thank you for getting that.
Yeah. No, look, we're all about this is actually going to degenerate as the election goes on into a 100% Bane memes podcast.
I would vote the shit out of Bane.
I don't think Bane wants to be voted for. I think he's I'm an agent of chaos.
No, that's the Joker, man.
No, that's the Joker. Oh. Fuck. I can't look.
Bane is America's reckoning.
I'm Gotham's reckoning.
Yeah.
So, who's the biggest guy in the race? That's the big question.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but actually, no. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Don't get me started on it. Yeah.
We're not going to go down the Batman rabbit hole. Look at his hat. The dude is a certified Batman fanatic. We'll go on forever.
I know.
We'll go on forever. Anyway,
I gotta get my own show.
You gotta get your own show.
But no, let's be serious. Gotta remember my
this is firing
political origin. Let's get into polling.
Well, no. I gotta handle my correction. My correction.
Yes, I sidetracked us on the mask thing.
So it is very significant, I think.
Okay.
Mike Bloomberg is a man whose net worth is over $60 billion, who's at the head of a financial services company that is extremely influential and lucrative.
And owns a news company.
And owns a news company. The fact that he's running for president directly, like I said, every time I talk to, and it's not just about Bloomberg, but every time I talk to Bernie Sanders supporters, and I've talked to a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters over the course of the race so far, they say this is a mask-off primary, where basically there is no veneer of respectability to American crony capitalism anymore. It's just a totally direct fight between the working class and the upper classes. And Mike Bloomberg is a mask-off moment candidate. And so I was, when we were going into the debate last week, and I put up my essay, which actually went live at the same time as the debate was going on, because you gotta hit those algo metrics to try and get your 2,000 views or whatever you got. But I basically assumed that the press the next day was going to declare Bloomberg the winner of the debate, because I was I remembered the way that he was in New York, And I always knew that he was like a shitty campaigner, but it never mattered because he had fucking money and pull. And you know, they've been sucking his dick already for 2 weeks and talking about him as the, like, you know, the great moderate hope, which we'll talk about that fucking language of moderates a little bit later probably. But I just assumed that, like, all Mike Bloomberg would have to do is, like, not die on stage, like, not have a stroke, and he would be coronated. And I had a little bit of a disillusioning moment because Mike Bloomberg sucked so much fucking dick at that debate that not even the press was able to cover for it. His campaign, like, his shit collapsed. And partially this is because Elizabeth Warren had the best debate of the cycle for her. And she had some good fundraising that came out of that, you were saying.
Yeah, I think over a period of a few days, she raised like 14 or 15 million, which is a good shot in the arm for her because one thing I've complimented her in the past and have said so on the show is she does so much of her campaign advertising in-house that it's not sending money directly to so many Democratic Party operatives who are now being bailed out and put on welfare by Bloomberg giving them money. But yeah, Warren needs that money to sustain a high overhead. She was cutting advertising in the key upcoming states prior to this debate.
Yeah.
So she needed that. And yeah, the great thing about that debate is that so many people I know who are just casual voters, not really at the level we are of following campaign and political news every day, they were getting back to me about how well Warren did in the debate. So she got some major, I don't want to say street cred, but she definitely got a lot of people's attention last Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, and she needed it in terms of the fundraising game, especially. I still don't know, like, we'll talk about how good Warren did just in a second, but I want to go back to how bad Bloomberg did, because it was really unbelievable how unprepared, how dopey he came off, how uncharismatic, how, you know, stilted, and you know, the Bloomberg campaign obviously has a lot of money. And one of the things that they're doing with that money is they're investing in political meme making. So they're basically like trying to replicate Trump's 2016 meme campaign, which was a very important part of why Trump won. And I don't, like, any argument contrary to that, I don't believe, because Trump's budget for the campaign in general was so low, and his media budget was so low. A lot of the work that was that in a more traditional campaign was done by television advertising, radio advertising, and, you know, positive press, which Trump did not get any of.
Yeah.
He got a lot of press, but
yeah, he was outspent like 2-1 or 3-1 in that campaign.
It's 2-1 is the last number that I saw.
Okay.
That Hillary like about doubled it, and then obviously, you know, Hillary had a bunch of like PAC spending that was in her corner, and Trump did as well.
Oh, sure.
Like there were PACs that were supporting him, but in general, it was a much cheaper campaign, and I think a big part of that is memes are cheap, and if you excite the meme makers, you basically get a free, like, advertising campaign that's like dimorphous and not directly connected to the campaign, so it can say things that the campaign can't. It's like
easy to share on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's native on social media. It's absolutely essential. And so, like, Mike Bloomberg just thinks he can buy this, and it's like, no, motherfucker, you cannot buy the internet. Like, you can buy parts of the internet, you can buy platforms, you can buy whatever, but you cannot buy the soul of the internet. You cannot buy the shit posters. You cannot buy the trolls. And so
like, what's an example of memes that are being made for Bloomberg?
Well, this is what I was going to say. It's there's two moments from the debate that they were able to spin into Mike Bloomberg memes, and one of them is Mike Bloomberg said, "I'm the only one on this stage to start a business. Is that fair to say?" And then there was a pause because nobody else had started a business, and they turned it into a meme that was kind of they put this up on the Bloomberg Twitter account the next day. It was kind of an update of the Trump meme from the debates in 2015, where he's just repeatedly insulting Jeb Bush, and it's all about like sculpting comedy out of the silences and the pauses as Bush is like, you know, shrinking into himself, and Trump is just saying, "Jeb is a mess. Jeb is a waste. Jeb is a big fat mistake," and he keeps hitting the microphone and making this like bass line. Thump, thump, thump. No, lost my iPad there. But so the Bloomberg meme is like basically the worst variation of that possible, where they just made the silence really long, and they put cicadas.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, none of them started a business. Great one, Mike. Woo! Oh boy. And I was like, wow, because I actually didn't watch the debate on debate night. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. This does not give me any credit at all, because this is the Monster Manual with the second cover, the Jeff Easley cover. I should have pulled out the fucking. Here we go. Here's the. Here we go. This is the Dave Trampier Player's Handbook. I was playing AD&D First Edition on debate night, and I decided that I was not going to forego my one moment of pleasure in my life.
You didn't want to have a Dungeons and Democrats night?
I did not want to have a Dungeons and Democrats night. Democrats aren't allowed in my AD&D games, which are all about owning the libs with facts and humor. That's what they're about. They're about owning the libs. Anyway, so I didn't actually watch it on debate night, but I woke up in the morning, I was looking at Twitter, and I was looking at the Bloomberg Twitter, and I was like, wow, they have nothing. Like, how bad did this dude do? And then I started go to Politico, I go to New York Times, and this is another kind of meme, but so Bloomberg News, slightly more respectable than Mike Bloomberg's Twitter account, supposedly, as sources of political information go. They posted their sum up of the debate. They did not include Elizabeth Warren going after Bloomberg. They didn't have the thing about the NDAs, because this is one of the big things that Elizabeth Warren hit Bloomberg on, is that a number of women from the Bloomberg company have been put under non-disclosure agreement because of settled sexual harassment or sexual assault allegations. And these are an internal matter at the company.
And that really upsets the cat.
It really upsets the cat, because my cat is an intersectional feminist.
And she's from New York, so she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, she's a tough New York street cat.
Yeah.
And she's also the third chair on the show.
Yeah.
She's been on every episode so far. So,
Yeah.
welcome Queen Jane the cat.
Yeah.
The on Bloomberg News, and I saw this also on the New York Times made mention of this. Everybody quoted it basically. It's like the big quotable quote that Mike Bloomberg came away with. And in this sense, it's not like a meme to the extent that it's like something that internet shitposters came up with and propagated, but it is a news media meme. And so these are the two memes that came out of Bloomberg's performance. The fucking stupid business silence Trump variation, and the second one is Mike Bloomberg saying, they actually don't, usually the context was not provided. Bloomberg News did not provide the context. I don't believe the New York Times did. I could be wrong about that. But he says, I can't think of anything that would be, better for Donald Trump's reelection than hearing this conversation right now. And so when I saw that in isolation, I assumed that this was the Democrats were attacking each other. I know that Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg had gone after each other, for example.
I heard that he was really rough on her, too.
He hit her with the thing, Amy Klobuchar collapsed in Nevada, and...
Yeah. Like I said, you don't need to be in Washington to have experience or some such thing.
Well, they got in a fight about... hold on. Let me just finish the
I'm getting off track.
Yeah. So the other meme that came out of it was this, I can't think of anything better for Donald Trump than this conversation right here. And I assumed it was the standard kind of thing where it's like, oh, Democrats are attacking each other. We should have party unity, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a fucking basic bitch point. But, there's a lot of fucking basic bitches, especially on cable news, that are going to repeat it. And so, that's a decent win for Bloomberg. You actually watch the debate. Bloomberg said that in response to Bernie Sanders, who said that hourly employees should be represented on corporate boards. And I was like, oh, wow. So Mike Bloomberg, I am going to say, I am not scared of I wasn't scared of Mike Bloomberg at all. I think the fact that he was elevated in the press, that he's being talked about as much as he is, as a serious contender, and not as a fucking freak show Tom Steyer-like billionaire also ran, is... because the Democratic establishment and the media establishment are very afraid of Bernie Sanders. and basically the takeover of the Democratic Party that he would represent.
Like a day or two before the debate, what was it the rumor was that Bloomberg was considering Hillary as his running mate?
Bloomberg and Hillary, they had dinner together. It got reported in the New York Post in December.
Yeah.
And they're doing something. They're canoodling. But I really don't find it like believable at all that Hillary would be VP. Do you believe that at all?
No.
If she was Secretary of State, it would be a demotion.
Now, my conspiracy brain went to, if it is a brokered convention, Bloomberg is going to give his delegates to Clinton.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Hillary Clinton at a brokered convention is a very serious possibility. But, you know, to get back, because you brought up the Klobuchar-Buttigieg confrontation at the debate. And, speaking of brokered convention, just, you know, one last thing. Obviously, at the debate, the candidates were asked by my good friend Cuck Todd, host of Meet the Press on MSNBC, and a man who looks exactly like the male Lena Dunham. He looks like the male Lena Dunham.
All right.
Yeah, anyway. Basically, I'm calling him ugly. But, so Chuck Todd, the host of Meet the Press, who was one of the moderators for the debate, which was held in Las Vegas, and it was the Las Vegas Review-Journal and NBC. And he asked them whether they would be in favor of, essentially whether they'd be in favor of a brokered convention, which is a convention where no single candidate, even if a candidate has more delegates out of the primary process than all the other candidates, would you be in favor of allowing all the delegates to, you know, vote a second time to hit the like technical threshold that, you know, would be that is, you know, according to the rules of the Democratic Party, necessary to fully secure the nomination. Like, if Bernie Sanders, for instance, were to go into the convention with more delegates than any other candidate, but not enough delegates, not the
just under 50%,
just under 50%, not enough delegates. Like, I think it's over 2,000. That you need to secure it. Would you be in favor of a brokered convention, which is then a convention where there would be a second round of voting where the delegates could realign themselves a little bit like the caucus process that we've all been dealing with over the last couple of months, and significantly, because of rules changes put into place after 2016 by groups that are, you know, sympathetic to Sanders, the Democratic superdelegates who aren't involved in primary voting at all do not get to vote on the first round, which would be the pledged delegates from all the primaries, but they would get to vote on a second. So in the event of a brokered convention, the party establishment gets much more control over who gets to select the nominee. And it is possible that a nominee would be selected for whom nobody has voted for in a caucus or primary. And
I don't know why they just don't get rid of superdelegates.
Well, they've been trying since '68. I mean, like, it has been a long fight to get the Democratic Party to actually be fucking democratic in terms of selecting its candidate. And it's like getting the superdelegates down to the second round. Like, you know, this has taken years to get here. But every candidate on that debate stage, some of whom, like Bloomberg and Warren, would need a brokered convention in order to like make any kind of gains. They are all in favor of it, with the exception of Bernie Sanders, who's the guy who looks to be in the best position to collect the majority of delegates out of the primary process. And when NBC uploaded the debate in full to YouTube the next day, they cut that question out.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, the internet called them on it, and they reinstantiated it 2 days later, or like a day later. But, you know, it's like something that Chuck Todd said to me, and you're going to hear more about this in HRC 2020, because me and Chuck Todd have actually had correspondence during the meme war of 2016. It's something that he said to me when people accuse him of bias, or they accuse his network of doing something shady. You know what Chuck Todd says? Hey, man, welcome to the NFL. Football season is over, motherfucker. Like, look, I've said this before, but, like, people are pissed off right now, and they have a right to be. Like, Donald Trump was the result of a bunch of people that are extremely fucking angry at the state of society. And, like, Bernie Sanders is the same thing. to the extent that there is a lot of populist rage behind him, but I think it is more clearly articulated, and it's tied to more direct policy proposals. And if we don't get Sanders whoever, I'm going to say Sanders Gabbard because I'm in favor of the Indian fascists. I'm not actually in favor of the Indian fascists. I'm just giving Tulsi Gabbard shit. But if it's not Sanders Gabbard, it's going to be Smith and Wesson. That's my take on the fucking. That's my take on fucking election 2020. So yeah. What do we have anything else to talk about?
Are you a closet card carrying member of the NRA or anything?
Dude, of course I'm a member of the NRA.
Just checking.
No, I'm not actually a member of the NRA, but I do have an NRA knife and a letter from Wayne LaPierre thanking me for protecting American freedom. Thanks, Wayne.
That was part of my bio. I meant to toss in. I'm a rabid campaign button collector. One button and/or sticker I've never been able to grab, but I want is one from back in the '90s that says Charlton Heston is my president.
You know, I just got. This is a total digression, but you want to understand America in the 20th century. The best series of science fiction fantasy films to watch is The Planet of the Apes. And I just got the Blu-ray set, the Planet of the Apes Legacy Collection.
Nice.
And oh my God, it is stuffed with all the Planet of the Apes extras that you could desire.
Gotta watch that.
I mean, like, look, I have fucking Hitchcock movies. I have, like, you know, fucking Kurosawa movies on Blu-ray that have, like, 1/10 of the fucking bonus features that this fucking Planet of the Apes set has for Beneath the Planet of the Apes. There's 3 documentaries about Beneath the Planet of the Apes on this fucking thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, Charlton Heston may be your president, but he's barely in that fucking movie.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he set off a nuclear bomb at the end of the second one. He wanted to kill all the sequels.
Yeah, well, he didn't do
work.
that. But yeah, look, if it wasn't for Beneath, like, I think Escape is better than Beneath, and Conquest I like more than the first one.
Oh no.
Dude, the unrated cut of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Look, what I'm saying is, if you want to know what it's going to look like if the Democrats steal the fucking nomination for Bernie Sanders at a brokered convention, watch Conquest of the Planet of the Apes,
like
the
on
unrated version.
Yeah, like on that note, I think a lot of the rioting in that movie was inspired by Chicago in '68.
It was, like Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It's like, you know, they made these new remake movies with Andy Serkis, which I don't hate.
No.
They're fine, but they're dumb modern American blockbuster movies where they all end with like a big stupid fight, and like.
I wouldn't call them stupid fights.
But they end with a big fight. They end with a big fist fight. They all end with a big fist fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the hell? It's formula shit. Like, but the original Conquest of the Planet of the Apes ends with all the apes putting the humans on their fucking knees and executing them in the burning streets with shotguns.
Yeah.
Far superior film. And like, look, you want to know what Milwaukee's going to look like if you fucking steal it from Bernie Sanders? I mean, look, I don't want to say that because this
don't do that.
This is part of the thing. Like, you know, I joke about this, but people are very rightly super angry at the corporatist political establishment.
Just don't shoot anybody.
But like,
Please
that's
don't shoot
not.
anybody.
It's not a thing where it's like, this is. I'm not saying it is a good idea or that it's something that is like, you know, we got to do it, man. I'm just saying, like, look, people are really pissed off, and you push people, and you push people, and you push people, and eventually they're going to start making really bad fucking decisions. So that's all. I'm not saying that it's like something that should be done. I'm saying that it is a fucking dangerous possibility that we are up against in our politics right now. And I think that we have been for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And people haven't really been acknowledging it. But once again, we're kind of in a mask off moment.
We have too many shootings as it is, man.
That's true.
Just.
Yeah. Well, let's.
But like going back to the Nevada stuff, and you know, like just my own casual observations. Like, I actually respect Chuck Todd. I think he's one of the better hosts of Meet the Press we've had in a long time. It's been hard to fill the chair left by Tim Russert, but I will say he's more. Chuck Todd's more engaging than David Gregory. And I like how he gets so excited about looking over polling and analytics and just enjoying politics for the game of it all. Doesn't mean I don't have my fair share of problems with the guy. He's a Green Bay Packers fan.
Yeah, that's
not good.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and there are many times where Meet the Press is the I don't want to say cornerstone, but definitely a front row seat to the Eastern media that is not following much outside the Beltway. I mean, I don't want to get off on a rant, but like after the show or next time we hang out, remind me to talk about the day Harry Reid announced his retirement and how the panel was just absolutely kissing his ass about how great a liar he was.
Oh,
at the same time saying, "Oh, but we need to be angry at Trump when he lies."
Yeah, I mean, look, like I'm picking on Chuck Todd because I've actually had personal interactions with him. I mean, my problems with Chuck Todd are my problems with the entire television. Like my problems with Chuck Todd are my problems with television.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even necessarily. It's like, yeah, you know, he gets into politics as a sporting match, and it's like, guys like him have turned politics into sports.
We can't help it. Like, to some extent, I'm
Oh
one
yeah,
of those guys.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
absolutely one of those
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
I mean, like, but the thing is, like, politics, you know, and this is one thing that I was listening to the True Anon podcast about what happened in Iowa in 2016, which was, you know, it was worse than or in what happened in Nevada in 2016, excuse me, which is worse than what happened in Iowa this year. But you know, it was this crazy thing with the state party was, you know, rigging shit up against Sanders. They refused to seat 36 Sanders delegates because they said they didn't have proper credentials, but we never found out what those credentials were. It's like, I would really recommend listening to the episode of True Anon called Demon Rats, which they made available for free.
I think something similar like that happened in '08, where the Washington State GOP like stopped voting in the middle of their caucus because they were afraid Ron Paul was going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
see,
but like
yeah, yeah.
kind of like getting back on track to Nevada. I like how Harry Reid did come out and say that we need to stop this caucus stuff.
Well, Harry Reid has some complicated interests because, like, okay, so going back to the debate, it started with them wheeling Harry Reid out of his like cryogenic, you know, life-sustaining chamber to give, you
Was
know...
he on an iron lung?
No, he was dressed like a fucking Batman villain in a wheelchair with like a black fedora. He looked like Roger Stone when Roger Stone got like the charges got dismissed or whatever happened with him.
If it was an all-black wheelchair, it could be like they were doing a Captain Pike thing.
Yeah, it wasn't an all-black wheelchair, but he, like, you know... So Harry Reid started his political career taking cash donations from Howard Hughes out of the Diamond Slipper Casino in Las Vegas. He was very involved in the whole Cliven Bundy thing, where I was actually out in Nevada with the Bundys for at least part of that. And like, not the actual armed standoff, but like immediately afterwards when the militias were still occupying it. And so they all had some stuff to say about Harry Reid. My favorite thing about Harry Reid, though, is when he got caught putting millions of taxpayer dollars into UFO research programs, rather than having people, you know, say that this was wasteful government spending, a bunch of fucking dumbass military-industrial complex apparatchiks went on CNN to say aliens are real. This was at the end of 2015. So, you know, there's an Amber Alert. Nyla Crockett, 8 years old, black female. If you're in Texas and you know where Nyla Crockett is, please get on the, you know, please do something.
Keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out. But yeah, so when True Anon was talking about the rigging on Nevada, oh yeah, are you getting the Amber Alert too?
Same thing.
Yeah. When True Anon was talking about the rigging in the Nevada caucuses in 2016, they said, this is politics, you know, this is big boy shit. There is no authority you can bitch to. People steal shit. And so that's the thing that makes this different.
They stole it fair and square.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing that makes it different than sports. Is like, you know, obviously you can go off into the weeds, and like I do, like, you know, talking about the mass media elements of the campaigns, which is kind of the thing that I'm most interested in, is like how we're building these large scale, you know, religious narratives through the rituals of democratic participation that I think, you know, are the primary religious rituals of our society. But there is actual power at stake here. And it might only be symbolic power, you know, to a certain extent. But like, look, Medicare for all, whatever, but like if Bernie Sanders is able to enact the parts of his labor plan that would make it legal for federal employees to strike and would legalize secondary strikes or solidarity strikes, that would fundamentally change the balance of power between management and labor in the country. And that would be a significant thing. Like, the thing about politics becoming sports when it's all just about the horse race is it creates candidates like Pete Buttigieg, where he doesn't have a goddamn thing to say. He just has rhetoric. And he literally has someone else's rhetoric because he just fucking repeats Barack Obama talking points.
Yeah, he really wants to be Barack Obama.
He really wants to be Barack Obama. And like, him and Klobuchar really demolished each other at the debate. But it should be noted that debate was actually the most watched Democratic primary debate in recent American political history. Like, that was a 19 million viewership, which is still lower than a middle of the road Trump debate from the last time around, because Trump is a crazy media machine. But this was the closest that the Democrats got, and I think it's because of the wrestling storyline element of, this. First of all, everybody attacked each other, but I think going into it, it was the expectation that Bernie and Bloomberg were going to confront each other that drove viewership, because the contrast is so stark. The billionaire versus the guy who doesn't think billionaires should exist. Like, it's as close as we've gotten.
That was a weird exchange where, Bloomberg was asked, should you exist? And I was thinking, like, are they threatening him, or are they talking about his pocketbook?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to threaten him, personally.
Oh.
I mean, look, like, I talked about living in Bloomberg's New York. Like, I have nothing but fear and disrespect for that man. And I'm not, like, I have disrespect for Pete Buttigieg, but I'm not fucking afraid of him. Yeah. I find Pete Buttigieg pathetic. I find Amy Klobuchar pathetic. I mean, like, here's the big, like, the big takeaway of, like, how this campaign has gone so far. Like, if you've watched our last couple episodes, like, we had Iowa, and I was really freaked out. I was like, Jesus Christ, they're just going to fucking steal the whole thing. But I've dug in. I've talked to people that were on the ground there. I've gone through the voter results. A lot of the initial, like, the really obvious rigging that was in the final release numbers that came out in the aftermath of the Iowa caucus, they've actually corrected by now.
Good.
Because they did the recanvass. There's still some problems. Like, they didn't correct enough of it to actually give the one delegate lead that Pete Buttigieg has to Bernie. My suspicion is that Bernie probably won it. But we're talking about one pledged delegate out of a tiny contest. And so, like, put that in perspective. Like, they stopped because, like, I don't buy the fucking technical error part of it at all. And I don't think it holds up to any fucking scrutiny, because they could have, like, if the technical error thing was true, they could have, with phone banking, collected all of the data and released it the next day. But they didn't. No. They trickled it out over the course of a week. They created this Buttigieg won Iowa narrative. And they gave Biden a reprieve because nobody talked about his embarrassing result. And this is the thing. They went through all of that shit. They threw that big monkey wrench into the whole system of the Democratic primaries. They made everybody think that it was rigged, right out of the gate with this fucking transparent bullshit cheating crap. Because Bernie did too well and Biden did too bad, and they didn't know how to react, so they delayed, and then they tried to do the best that they could. It wasn't because there was some master plan. They were just fucking reacting. And then they were reacting the next time, like the media was reacting and the Democrats were reacting when Bernie won New Hampshire. But then they were saying, well, the real story is how close Buttigieg got or how good Klobuchar did. Like, you remember that Klobuchar push?
Oh, yeah.
Because it actually was engineered a little bit before New Hampshire, because they had the New Hampshire debate the Friday prior to that Tuesday primary. And they declared Klobuchar the winner. And she got, like, a little media boost. And she did.
Yeah, they're always looking for someone who has had a moral victory. That was Marco Rubio in Iowa back in 2016, because he had a respectable third place finish just behind Trump. Yeah, no, it's the horse race stuff. But like with the caucuses, the thing I like most about people talking about abolishing them is that it abolishes a portion of the party. I don't want to say hierarchy. It abolishes a portion of uh, the party nominating structure that is very friendly to someone who is a long tenured Democrat or a long tenured Republican.
Right.
And again,
Because it's all about
yeah,
organizational
and like
strength, right?
yeah, and I recall a quote from 2016 where someone said that when Trump was on the verge of being nominated, that a lot of big money people were happy enough to rent the party to Donald Trump instead of nominating an ideologue like Ted Cruz.
Right.
And now and now you have the establishment worried about Bernie. There's no like candidate that they have that seemingly can take him out at the moment. I mean, Super Tuesday's coming up. A lot of votes are going to come in, but I find it intriguing that we're going to be diluting the caucuses over time. They've had a bad election year. The process looks terrible. But I like how, we'll move toward primaries everywhere instead of caucuses being so widespread, accounting for, I don't know, like a third of each side's contests. And so I don't want to say democratize the nominating process more, but I hope it'll make it casual enough so that the parties, again, aren't beholden to the diehard, rabid Republican Party or Democratic Party base. So you get the more casual voters contributing their voice to the nominating process and giving candidates who aren't as, I'm not sure what route I want to go as I take this point home, but they aren't the, I guess, the good old boys.
Yeah. Well, you have to revivify it because like the old party structures are dying. I mean, I would argue that with the Republicans, they're actually dead. Like the Democrats, they are in the process of being throttled, thank God. But the Republicans, like, you know, after Trump, I don't know what the Republican Party looks like. I mean, that's an open question to me. So the other thing, you know, talking about the caucuses and the primaries, because obviously Iowa gave the caucuses a very bad impression. The other thing is that Nevada Iowa and New Hampshire are both very white states. And so there's this moment after Amy Klobuchar placed third in Nevada, and there was kind of this like, Pete Klobuchar, they're the moderates, they're going to take on Sanders because suddenly we can't talk about Biden because Biden is just like, you know.
He's still barely ahead in South Carolina.
He's barely ahead in South Carolina, but like, you know, he's been ahead in polling before and it's not materialized.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't.
Drops off.
I don't think that people on election day.
There was a public policy poll out today that showed him back up to like 36%, as opposed to being up by 5 or 9 points.
I mean, and that should be
public policy polling. Take them for what they will. They are a Democratic outfit. So over time, I think that they do good for like the second and third place rankings, but sometimes I think they overestimate the first place finisher.
Okay, so let's talk about let's talk about some of the polls here.
Yeah.
So these are entrance polls from the Nevada caucuses, and like I said, you know, New Hampshire and Iowa are both overwhelmingly white states. Like the thing that I'm noticing in this election is panic on the part of the party bosses. Mm-hmm. Iowa, I think, is like the biggest fucking shit fight panic move that I've seen in modern presidential politics. It was an insane reaction. I think that the elevation of Buttigieg and Klobuchar, you know, the fact that they had like 2 weeks of like, oh, they're going to challenge Bernie was totally short-sighted, given the fact that you could see from a million miles away that neither of them was doing the work to have outreach in the Hispanic or the black community. I mean, Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar both have like sketchy police shooting and like, you know, racial.
Like part of her background is being a judge, so she kind of ran into a Kamala Harris type problem where since she had the job related to law enforcement, that was not the right occupation for.
Well, I mean, we can get deeper into it, but like Black Lives Matter in her home state is saying she needs to step down because of what she did. I mean, she's like directly involved in like basically getting off a police officer who shot like a kid.
Uh,
Yeah. Pete Buttigieg has been said by a city councilman, I believe, from South Bend, Indiana, that he turned the temperature of the police department back to the 1940s.
oh yeah.
He
Nope,
has faked black endorsements
Saw that.
from black.
I can still remember the footage of him being yelled at the town hall.
Yeah, I mean, and like, did you see the footage of him like trying to do the Beto O'Rourke thing where he speaks Spanish in the middle of a speech and then he like forgot how to do
You
it?
tried that?
Yeah, and well, he died midway through. Like he starts going off in Spanish and then he just like stops and then laughs at it and keeps going. And I was like, I mean, you want to know what's up with fucking Pete Buttigieg? Like, I don't know if I actually have it. It's an issue of Mad Magazine from 1968 where all the candidates in the 68 race are clipped together to create a picture of Alfred E. Newman.
Oh, nice.
That's Pete Buttigieg. We'll find it later. But Amy Klobuchar got interviewed on Univision and she couldn't name the fucking president of Mexico.
Right.
And not only could she not name the president of Mexico, she like didn't know anything about his fucking policies. It's Lopez Obrador, by the way, and he's kind of a Mexican Trump, a little bit.
But he had more of a left-leaning appeal, so...
But he's like a populist,
Yeah.
nationalist populist candidate.
Right.
That's what I meant. But, and that's what Klobuchar and Buttigieg, like, killed each other on the debate stage is... And then there's this, like, inane moment where Elizabeth Warren, like, came in and, she supported Amy Klobuchar. I saw everybody say that, like, Elizabeth Warren going to the defense of Amy Klobuchar. I saw something that was like Van Jones or one of these idiots. Like, yeah, sorry. I mean,
go easy on Van Jones.
But they're television people. They're all fucking idiots.
I know.
But
But they try.
I don't think they do. I mean, I think that what they try to do is pure fucking.
Okay,
evil.
he tries.
Okay, there we go. But so I saw them saying like Amy Klobuchar. Or no, Elizabeth Warren, there was nothing she couldn't do at this debate. Like, she was on the attack, but she also protects and defends Amy Klobuchar. She had this moment where she was like, Amy Klobuchar couldn't name the president of Mexico, but we shouldn't, talk about that. Like, we should talk about policy. And then the person who was asking the question, who was a journalist from Univision, was like, well, she didn't know anything about the policies either. And then Elizabeth Warren said, oh, well, that's fair. And nobody mentions that. Nobody mentions that.
Yeah.
But my point is, you could see that Buttigieg and Klobuchar were going to collapse in Nevada because specifically they weren't going to be able to pull Hispanic support. And, talking about Hispanic support in Nevada.
Big numbers for him.
Yeah, Buttigieg got 11%, which is, decent. He got 2% of the black vote. He got 2% of the black vote. 50% of Hispanic vote goes to Sanders. 29% of the white vote as well. 28% of the black vote. This is the reason that Biden, I think, might still be...
Biden had a 10-point lead, yeah.
Biden had a 10-point lead in the black vote, which is 11% of the population in Nevada. But, like, that does augur well for him in South Carolina. And, but here's the reason, like, I don't take the polling out of South Carolina that shows Biden up. Because I do think that polls overrepresent... Because I, as far as I know, a lot of these polls are still using landline reporting.
That's a big problem.
So they overrepresent older voters. And like, here's, 17 to 29 voters in Nevada, 65% Bernie. 30 to 44, 49% Bernie. 45 to 64, 27% Bernie. But then you get to 65 and older.
Oh.
And you've got a big win.
Hey, there's Joe.
For fucking Joe Biden. Yeah. So this is the thing. Joe Biden's constituency is like gonna die tomorrow.
Well, I think they'll make it to election day.
They might make it to election day, but like, look, they're on iron lungs. They're they got the walkers.
Never underestimate the senior vote. They got people who can drive them in vans to the polling place.
See, if you wanted to be a totally skeevy motherfucker. You know what you do? You fucking get an all-day, like, Cracker Barrel sale on election day. You'd kill Joe Biden. You'd knock him out of the race.
Good food.
Yeah. And these are the people who don't care about Medicare for all because they're already all on Medicare.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Biden, I think, is overrepresented in the polls because he is overrepresented in the fucking in the
Yeah, I always feel guilty.
ancient-
Yeah, I always feel guilty when I look at polling because it's like they're numbers and I love them, but at the same time I'm like this can't be accurate, or oh, this was obviously borderline a push poll where the media wanted a certain narrative going out of a certain state because but I don't know. So I would say that we're in an age where, and again with so much of it being based on landlines, it's almost like they have a 8% margin of error as opposed to a 4%.
Yeah,
It's rough. It's rough.
And I just don't like. I mean, looking ahead to South Carolina, which is going to be this week, Saturday, I believe, right?
Yes.
South Carolina
Yes.
primary. Looking ahead to South Carolina, Bloomberg is still not in contention. He actually jumps in for the Super Tuesday states. And big negative sign for him is Tom Steyer pumped a ton of money into Nevada. A ton. And he did not even...
He hasn't shown up anywhere.
He's not on the fucking board.
He might be out after South Carolina because he actually has done a respectable third and maybe in a few cases second place finish in some opinion polling for South Carolina. I think that was
I did see him up.
Yeah, he was second in like late December, but then then Bernie picked up momentum. So if he doesn't get a solid finish, I think he's out. And yeah, Biden he could win, but if it's only by a few percentage points, that's not going to be.
I think that would be.
That's not going to mean much.
I mean, but I think it would be enough to get him at least enough war chest to creep into Super Tuesday.
Yeah, like he'll try to contend here in Texas or in North Carolina.
Well, he's like the only
Florida.
thing. The only thing he has is the black vote, and that's not nothing.
No.
But we'll see how much he's able to hold on to it. Once because that's the thing about Nevada is like as much as I think the media has been like misrepresenting and underreporting Bernie over the course of his campaign, they have no choice but to call him the front runner now because this was more so than New Hampshire and Iowa. This was a commanding victory, and he got it on the back of Hispanic support primarily. Which is like I was at the Bernie Sanders rally in Austin.
I want to talk more about that because
I
wasn't able to make it, but you attended.
Yeah, and he actually had an immigrant rights activist speak in Spanish, no translation, no nothing, and he's been very serious about getting out the vote, providing translation services at the Nevada caucuses, doing radio ads on Hispanic radio, like. They're actually for years the Democratic Party has talked about how the future of their party is the Hispanic vote. It seems to me like Bernie Sanders is the first presidential campaign that I've seen in my history that's actually engaging with that seriously and not just saying some Spanish on the debate stage because you think that one or two sentences is going to win you a friend. It's like when fucking white women go to Mexican restaurants and pronounce all the food with the Spanish accent because they think that will endear them to the wait staff. Give me some enchiladas.
No.
Yeah, it's Peggy Hill Spanish. That's what we keep bringing up King of the Hill, but
no, I hopped on my computer. It was aggravating. I could not find a good screenshot of Hank Hill on his riding mower, but I found a beautiful shot of the White House lawn, and I'm gonna make a photo of Hank Hill mowing the White House lawn, and that is to me the most optimistic assessment of the future I can think of.
Yeah, I think you should send that to me because I'll put it as the thumbnail.
Yeah.
I'll put it as the thumbnail. When we do the Texas edition of our show here, I think we should call our show the Smoke-Filled Room, but then there's no smoke. I'm just vaping. Anyway, Bernie Sanders is I'm very impressed by his campaign. And not just on an ideological level, right? Because it's you could be Eugene McCarthy. You could have all the good ideas, from my perspective. But, Eugene McCarthy when he ran in 1968 on this platform of getting out of the Vietnam War and actually having universal basic income, a lot of good stuff. He didn't even try to win over superdelegates. Which at the time were the vast majority of delegates at the Democratic Convention. So politically, his campaign was very big-hearted and very big-brained on a normal human level, but politically it was dumb as shit. And Bernie Sanders is that rare combination of like, look, he's got, you know, the leftoid policy proposals that have been kicking around since '68. I mean, since before that, if you want to go like to the New Deal shit. But he's got that, and unlike most of those politicians, he is fucking devious, and he's fucking good at building an infrastructure and a ground game and getting people out to actually fucking vote.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a very, like, his commanding performance with Hispanics and, like, the margin that he won by. Because, like, look, Harry Reid was, you know, running the Nevada caucuses. And I've heard rumors of, you know, similar shit to what happened in Iowa in terms of, like, picking a delegate off of Sanders here or there in order to try and flip the narrative. But the margin was so huge, it didn't do anything. And now, ironically, the Buttigieg campaign is, they're complaining to the party.
Yeah, I saw that because like they were trying to take second place away from Joe Biden and saying, oh, there are irregularities and they want to have a battle for second place. I'm like, that's a dick move.
I mean, look, like...
You know, Joe Biden doesn't have very much, guys. Just let him get what he can get.
I mean, yeah, it's like 16%, or let's see, it's, well, I'm looking at the polls still. But like, but Bernie's performance, especially with Hispanics, and with blacks too, to a lesser extent.
I like how, like, obviously, since he is so liberal, there's already columns popping up in the press about how, oh, is he the, you know, second coming of George McGovern or not? And I was like, that one I'm not too sure about because he holds up well enough against Trump in the head-to-head matchup because there's such a big anti-Trump vote out there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's a real true historical matchup for this campaign because like 48% of the country are never Trumpers. Yeah. More or less. The thing with Bernie is that it comes down to imagery. Is that does the American public want a guy this old with so much white hair, so much of his head showing from balding, saying these extremely liberal things? Like there's the old saying, but will it play in Peoria? Like I think a lot of Democrats out there are wondering, will this play in the Philadelphia suburbs that we need to turn Pennsylvania back to the Democratic Party? It's like does he seem too much like the kooky guy who's going to turn off the so-called swing voters?
Yeah, see, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I actually think that the swing voters, the so-called moderates, like I know that they exist to a certain extent, but like to be very diplomatic about it, fuck them. Like this whole idea of fucking like, okay, there's one political ideology that dominates American life, and it's consumerist corporatism, where we have like a religious veneration for, you know, we derive our identities from the products that we buy. Our lives only have meaning to the extent that we get money to spend money on product. And the organizations, the institutions that rule our world are, you know, consumer corporations that make, you know, fucking dumbass, pointless products or munitions or the chemicals that keep us alive. Including food. A lot of chemicals to keep you alive. And this is a fucking really bad arrangement for a lot of people and a really good arrangement for a certain subsect of people. And these are the moderates, quote unquote. The people that are basically happy with the status quo. The people that are like, you know, they may not, you know, they may be like, well, you know, it's important for people to have insurance. I wish we could get universal health care, but like, we just can't do it. Like, if you know how to do the math, like, oh man, you know, there's just not enough money for it. But you know what those people are is like, they're people for whom this system is like working, and they want to seem like they're sober and they know what's going on. They consume a lot of media that tells them, like, you're the smart one, you're the sober one, you're the guy who's, you know, you're just, you know how it works. Like, you know, and they tend to be older. They tend to be in the baby boomer generation or Gen X where they actually were able to get jobs that provide them with a living wage. My generation And a lot of people, like,
we missed the boat on that one.
We missed the fucking boat. And, like, look, I've been from one end of this country to the other, and when I say that people are fucking pissed off, it's like people are poor, people are living lives that have no fucking, like, point or purpose, and they're angry, and all of their friends are going overseas to get fucking psychotic, brain disorders or get blown up. And then they're coming back here and shooting themselves up with heroin until they don't know what the fuck is going on. And then they're, like, getting collected under the elevated train lines in New York, like fucking human bodies left out with the fucking debris after a nuclear attack. Like,
I like how like 2 weeks ago we actually got snow here in Austin, and I talked to someone and they said, yeah, my first thought was, oh, it's not snowing, it's nuclear winter.
Yeah. No, we did get snow. It all evaporated by the next day, which is like if you live up north, that's the thing I hate about snow. The thing I love about snow is watching it fall, and the thing I hate about it is going to work the next day. Mm-hmm. So, kind of get the best of both worlds down here, apparently. But
like from a pure selfish horse race media imagery perspective, like just. Unfortunately, so much of our politics comes down to who do you want to see on TV.
Yeah, no, that's true. And
do you think people would want to see Bernie Sanders on their TV for 4 years, and that his nomination could lead people to?
I don't think people
well, the devil I know is better than the devil I don't.
No, I mean, like, it is possible that this is a McGovern situation where the left has basically overextended itself and is trying to elect a candidate that is only satisfying to them. But, like, in 1972, when George McGovern ran against Richard Nixon, the American economy was doing much, much better than it is right now. And young people were actually, like, like, the baby boomers got taken care of by this fucking country. Like, we are not in that position. There's a lot of people, especially, Hispanic and black people, that are not in that position these days. And, like, here's the thing I'm saying about the fucking moderates. Like, yeah, a lot of presidential politics comes down to who you want to watch on television, but the people who are going to elect Bernie Sanders are younger people who don't fucking watch television. Like, the television vote is never going to be in favor of Sanders because television's median audience is very old. And this is something I'm going to talk about at HRC 20 in my next political column, which I'm sorry is still ongoing. But so I don't want to talk about it too much, but, like, the median television audience is very old. The median age of an average age, not median age, but of a watcher of MSNBC is, I think, 61. Fox News at 64. Yeah. And in general, the television audience has been aging at about a rate of 2 to 3 times that of the general American population. And as a result of this, the television audience is older. They're baby boomers, so they actually have most of the disposable income.
Yeah.
And who advertises to them, especially on news programs? It's pharmaceutical companies. It's like an increasingly big bite of the apple of fucking advertising on news programs. So, like, Chuck Todd's job is to advance their interests. He is never going to be in favor of Bernie Sanders, and not because, like, ooh, does this play with the moderates? Like, oh, what are the moderates thinking? Like, look, guys like Chuck Todd tell the moderates what they're thinking because the moderates are just people who fucking watch television.
I know I defended Chuck Todd earlier because I, like him as a. Actually, that's kind of sad. A kind of sad thing for me to say. I like Chuck Todd as a TV personality.
Yeah. I like Donald Trump as a TV personality.
Whew. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do want to say that, and I think you've posted about this already. It is a dick move for the press to constantly say, "Oh, but if you add up the moderate vote, they get more than Bernie." No, guys. From a campaign perspective, that does not make any sense. These candidates all have different priorities, and I've touched on this before. You guys keep interchanging the word moderate, which to me holds to be a ideology that's not quite liberal, not quite conservative. I think you keep confusing moderate for what you think is electable, as in, Amy Klobuchar could put together a better general election ad than the white-haired guy from Vermont. That's what you guys are really trying to communicate subliminally, or in this case, with your messing with the numbers very directly.
Yeah, my favorite thing about that argument, just as a quick aside, is so after New Hampshire, this is when we first saw, and I believe it was actually on MSNBC, and I think it was Chuck Todd.
Yeah. It was
doing the Sanders versus moderates, that infographic that they did.
That doesn't work.
No, but the first time they did it, it was Biden, Klobuchar, Buttigieg.
And now they're adding Warren to the mix.
No, they took Klobuchar out because she performed so low and added Warren, even though on a policy level, she's closer to Sanders than Buttigieg or Biden. But it makes it very transparent that this whole Sanders versus moderates thing is, it's literally just about...
It's a load of malarkey.
It's a load of malarkey.
A bunch of malarkey.
It's a bunch of malarkey. So if you are currently at Cracker Barrel, you loved that joke, and you're voting for Joe Biden.
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, I do think we should, because we're getting on an hour, so I was thinking maybe we should hit some Taco Cabana after this. Brought to you by Taco Cabana.
And I'm wanting breakfast food, like IHOP, or I wish there was a Denny's nearby.
There is a Denny's nearby.
Yeah, but I'm not a big fan of that one.
There's a Star Seeds.
Ooh,
You go to Star Seeds.
I heard that they raised their pricing by like $1 or $2.
So do you think we're going to have violent revolution in this country within the next 10 years?
No.
We got to agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah, no. Of all the themes I thought would pop up today, I didn't know I'd have to put down the idea of like a armed revolution in this country.
Hey man, like this year we've already had state capitals occupied by fucking armed Second Amendment protesters. It's happened multiple times. I mean, and like, look, you want to know why they don't just fucking steal the election outright? Like, why in Iowa even did they have to do this like insane delay tactic and like fudge the numbers and like fight so hard over one delegate, two delegates, one portion of a delegate? It's because we're the most heavily armed civilian population in the fucking world. So like, make all the complaints that you want to make about the Second Amendment, but like, look, it's very hard to fuck around with the armed civilian population. LBJ knew that. I mean, we've been fighting it out in fucking Afghanistan and Iraq for how goddamn long. Anyway, like, look, we don't have to focus on that. I'm looking forward to South Carolina because I think that this is going to be like a big clarifying moment. I think all of these candidates, as many of them as are able to keep the money flowing, are going to try to stay in until the convention to force a brokered convention. And they know that they're going to be going up against a juggernaut with Bernie Sanders in terms of like, if he's able to keep swinging, especially the Hispanic vote, the way that he did in Nevada, he is going to be a very serious guy to take on. And I don't think any one of these candidates is equipped to do it, but I think that they are all invested in the idea of making their little cuts, their little snips, getting as many votes as they can possibly get away from Sanders and taking it in the convention so they can steal it from him and get my girl, Hillary Clinton, in there from round 2 against Donald Trump. What do you think?
That worked out very well for Adlai Stevenson.
Yeah, it did. And then, so that's why we all love the Adlai Stevenson administration. We all remember it very fondly. Yeah. And it worked out great for Hubert Humphrey in '68. Once you have a brokered convention, it's a recipe for success in November. It's a recipe for success. And seriously, if there is a brokered convention in Milwaukee this year, it's gonna be nuts because you're gonna piss off all the activists. I mean, and I'm not like, look, I'm not saying that this is,
Don't shoot anybody. Just throw a beer bottle or something.
Yeah, start.
If I can work you down to that, I'll feel better about myself.
Start with a brick.
Yeah.
Start with a brick, because like, look, you hit a cop with a brick, he's not getting up. He's gonna have mental problems. He's not gonna be able to walk straight. He's not gonna be able to hug his kids. Like, you're gonna be making you want to make substantial change in your community. Start with a brick, or just fucking vote for the candidate. Just vote for the candidate you prefer, and do your best to try and maintain American democracy going forward into the future. That's the option I would like to go with. Personally,
democracy is not for the weak.
Democracy is not for the weak. And the sort of chaos that I'm talking about, I do not relish this. I'm just saying that like there are a lot of people who are extremely dispossessed and pissed off, and everybody in the political establishment, all these people like ginning up, like when Chuck Todd gins up that thing, like Sanders versus moderates.
Yeah, Chuck, you can do better.
Well, you're playing with fucking fire, man, is the thing that I'm telling him. And it's not a threat. Like, it's not a fucking, like, you better do what we say or else. I'm just saying, like, look, as a dispassionate observer of history here.
I know I said I wouldn't get into this, but, the episode of Meet the Press that I alluded to earlier has bugged me for years. It was, Harry Reid announcing he was not going to run for another term. I think this was in, call it 2015. And the Meet the Press panel toward the end there, and I can't recall all the commentators, but one of them said, do y'all remember in January 2012 where Harry Reid, and they were really building him up as give him hell Harry, as if he's worthy of the mantle of Harry Truman. But one of the commentators said, do y'all remember when Harry Reid said that Mitt Romney hadn't paid any taxes for several years, and that created so much media, but it turned out it wasn't true, and we asked him about that. He said, oh yeah, I just said that to give him trouble. They were saying that in such a positive manner. Yeah, Harry Reid lied about the presumptive Republican nominee not paying any taxes just for fun. And then, for the remainder of that election cycle, the commentators on that program wanted us to be so disappointed that we were moving toward a post-truth society where politicians could get away with lying.
Yeah, like moving towards...
Yeah.
We're in a post-truth society.
You guys were not truthful. Actually, you were very truthful when you blatantly complimented Harry Reid on a blatant lie. And you were happy about it.
Well, it's all in the game, man. It's all just part of the horse race. But this is the thing, and this is the point that I'm making, is like, look.
Like, lying is either bad or it's to your advantage. Make up your mind.
Well, it can be both. In the world of like, look, if you want to look at this as just a fucking game of social manipulation, but like, look, and it is, like, politics is a game of manipulating the masses, whipping up their passions and intensities. But like, look, if you want to keep playing that game without without giving a little bit of a bone to the people that are getting fucked right now, like, those people powered the Trump movement. Those people are very in evidence in the Bernie Sanders movement. I think the Bernie Sanders movement represents a much more positive outlet for these fucking feelings of disappointment and humiliation. I'd like to go to the doctor, personally. Universal childcare, why not? But more importantly, right of workers to organize. Yeah. I think is very, very important.
Coming full circle, I think that, be it Bloomberg or with just the absolute, just monumental stretching of logic that we're seeing on the panels on TV. I think the masks are coming off.
Masks are off. I think that's the name of the episode, Mask Off. I think that's going to be it.
Very Venom, with the masks going on when he takes on the SWAT team.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, I love that movie. The fact that it had the Eminem song at the end about that, it's just so cheesy. You know, like, I don't like the superhero movies. Like, I mean, I don't like the Marvel ones, and I don't like the way that they take themselves so fucking seriously. They're either like Joss Whedon quippy or like way too pretentious. And Venom was just like dumb as shit and did not care. And it also had the scene where Venom says, "You're a pussy, Eddie." Great voice. I do. Just a couple of things about the Sanders rally, really quick. So I
want to talk more about that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to cover it more completely. I'm going to try to sell some kind of a piece about this.
Okay.
I met Alex Jones. I might have been on InfoWars yesterday, so look out for that one. And big shout out to Owen Schroyer, very nice guy, independent media guy who works with InfoWars. I mean, look, I like InfoWars, so whatever. But the rally itself, like, I've been to a lot of political rallies, and this was a very serious rally. Like, this was not bubbly and fun. Like, when I saw Barack Obama, it wasn't...
We
both saw Barack Obama in 2008. Or was it 7? It was when he was in the...
February of 07.
It was February of 07. It was the primaries. It didn't have that tone. It wasn't pathetic and desperate, like when I saw Larry Klayman try to drag Barack Obama out of the White House and hang him by the neck until dead. That actually wasn't part of the pitch, but he did say that he would make Barack Obama face the people's justice. You actually can't see that, the people's justice. But
But like, how do you contrast your mood going out of the Obama rally in '07, where you were like, I think you were feeling optimistic.
yeah,
Very optimistic, but I think you were still wary of his chances of being nominated.
yeah, I didn't think he could get the
And now you're
nomination.
pessimistic, but optimistic about Sanders' chances of getting nominated.
I am optimistic about Sanders' chances of being nominated. I do think that, like I said, it was a very serious mood. Like, people were dressed in dark colors. It wasn't a party atmosphere. Part of that is that the Sanders campaign gets, like, local bands to open for them. They had a bunch of sad-ass folk acts, which was not a good, like, pump-up for a political rally. They did have the Black Angels play, which was a psychedelic band.
Oh, wow.
I like them.
Oh, yeah.
I like that a little bit.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that was cool. But Jim Hightower spoke, which was cool. Marianne Williamson came out and endorsed Sanders in a surprise appearance, talking about the Pledge of Allegiance, which is one thing that I would say about Sanders in the general is, like, I think he needs to have more dopey patriotism crap in his pitch so that you can get the fucking...
Voters are dopey. They like that stuff.
Yeah, they love it. They like the schmaltz. And I think Sanders could do it effectively. I think that the, like, 60s radical has become such a patriotic symbol at this point for the vast majority of people. Like, I don't think it's going to be like 1992 when, George H.W. was hitting Bill Clinton for organizing for Eugene McCarthy. And, like, maybe it will be like 1992, but Bill Clinton won that fucking election.
He did.
So, whatever.
He was McGovern's campaign director in Arkansas.
Yeah, I did. I remember that. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't maybe brag about that.
No.
The fucking thing. That's the other thing is, like, who's Bernie going to pick for VP? That's a second thing. We got to avoid an Eagleton situation.
Oh, come on, man. He brought so much attention to the issue of depression.
You don't want that in your VP candidate. You don't. Oh. You don't want a psychiatric hospitalization in his history. But
I was so happy when I finally found a McGovern Eagleton button for my collection in January. I only had McGovern Shriver ones.
That's awesome.
It was a beat up button, but it had character.
We should show off some of your buttons on the next episode. Yeah,
I'm always jealous of your jacket.
Yeah, no, my jacket is amazing, and some of these are buttons that James has gifted me, but some of them are buttons that come from my good friend Doug Skinner. Yeah.
I got all mine on a wall, but you can, like, wear yours around.
Well, I don't, because this jacket smells terrible. Because this was my, like, homeless, desperate guy Travis Bickle jacket when I was living in New York, under the gun, as they say. And here's the thing that I got.
I'm really glad you didn't trap the mohawk.
No, guys with curly hair can't pull it off. But so here's the thing about the Sanders rally is, like, look, he could give a good speech. He still focuses on those same policy positions. He's added a few since 2016 that are more nebulous than, like, sort of his.
Did he use the term political revolution?
All the time, yeah.
Okay. Because that didn't seem to be showing up around Iowa, New Hampshire time.
No, he used political revolution. He used military-industrial complex. Cool. Like, he was, on the level of, like, what my politics actually, like, my personal politics actually are, beneath my, like, politics is a fucking game and we gotta, like, fuck with the system, like, approach. He spoke very directly to me. Was I, like, heartened by this? I mean, I don't know. The main thing that I got out of Sanders is, like, this is a last sad chance to, like, turn away from a lot of bad shit that is happening as a result of wealth inequality and, like, totally unchecked and unchallenged American corporatism, which doesn't just dominate American politics, but literally dominates the globe. So this is the thing that I got out of Sanders, is, like, look, this is sort of our last chance at a peaceful, democratic version of the public conversation that will work towards resolving these issues or not. And if it doesn't, like, especially if he gets fucked or if they kill him, I think that this is going to be a very bad situation, because there is kind of, like, a powder keggy element to this, much more so than Donald Trump. Because I went to a Trump rally and I didn't actually get to get in because there was too much of a line, but I was in the riots outside of it. And the thing
was this?
This was in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
and it was back in 16, and you know, the Trump thing was cathartic for the left and the right, because they got to go out and scream at each other in the streets. And what I did when I went to the Trump rally was I put on my jacket and I could hang out with the protesters, the people who were yelling at the Trump guys, and then I would put on my MAGA hat and I could go around with the Trump people, and I fit in with both groups. So I just kind of made a circle and fucking would hang out with the Trump guys, and then I'd cross the line and I'd take my hat off, and then I'd hang out with the protesters, and then I'd go around, and like, people had a great time. Everybody was just like getting in each other's face and screaming. Like, I know people say that there's like violence at the Trump rallies, and like, I saw a lot of like very violent argument. I didn't see anybody get punched. I didn't see anybody get hit with a baseball bat. It wasn't a real riot, but it was an opportunity for a bunch of like very angry people to go and be very angry at one another in public in a cathartic way. And it was kind of, I think, on some level, even though the protesters would say like, oh, we're so disturbed and angry, and I'm sure the Trump people would say like, oh, we're so pissed off at these dumbass libs, I do think that everybody had a good time.
I do feel like it's very cliche to always go with a George Orwell analogy, but every morning people should begin their day with like 3 minutes of rage.
I think that
either
they
3
do,
minutes or 5 minutes. What is it?
15 minutes.
15. Oh God,
15 minutes of hate.
That's too much rage.
It's hate, not rage.
Oh, it's hate. Oh,
it's hate. Yeah. I mean, I think honestly, like CNN.
Right.
What is CNN other than a 24 hours of rage?
Yeah, fair point.
So, but the Sanders rally was much more. It was actually the most serious political event that I've ever been at. And am I inspired by it? Am I like an enthusiastic supporter of the Sanders campaign? Yes. I do feel a little bit of reticence saying that like I do see this sort of like, blackness lurking in the shadows behind the movement. But like it was there before Sanders. Sanders is a chance to push it in a positive, in a more positive direction. Like when he talks about a political revolution, he's not talking about killing people. But
that's why it's political, yeah. Yeah,
that political revolution. Like political revolution, underline, underline, underline. But the thing is, like,
I wouldn't call it the last chance, though, because if he does succeed in getting nominated, then his folks can gradually infiltrate the party hierarchy,
right.
Change the nominating rules, make it a more primary focus, less caucus focused, and for I guess a historical perspective, George Will had that line from 1980, very famous in Republican circles, for saying in 1980, it took 16 years for all the votes from the 1964 presidential election to be cast. His way of saying, because Goldwater got nominated in 64, he got his ass kicked. But over time, the conservatives mattered in that party, and they took over the entire party hierarchy. This could mean that, in effect, this is one major step in the Democratic Party embracing more left-leaning socialistic type policies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so like you were saying earlier, it might be our last best hope. I'm not a fan of that rhetoric. The more history I read, and the number of times that in my lifetime I've been told we're living through our most important presidential election.
That's every time.
Yeah, it's every time.
And sometimes it just doesn't work. Like 2012, did anybody believe that was the most important election of their life?
Yeah. So just that, I don't know. It's like all elections are critical, and your cat needs more attention. Yeah. All elections are critical, but it's not our last best chance for anything. It's one more step in the ongoing American story of trying to get our government to actually do something productive.
Okay, I will agree with you there. I just think that there's a lot of, look, people got to fucking engage with how pissed off and dispossessed and just straight up poor people are right now.
No, that's what voting is for, ideally.
Ideally, that is what voting is for. So please, if we got the Super Tuesday states coming up, let's all try something weird here and vote. Vote for Bernie Sanders, maybe. I personally would appreciate that. Or vote for my lovable cat.
Vote Jane or die.
Vote Jane or die.
Now I'm becoming the more violent guy.
Now you're the more violent guy. Yeah, it's totally flipped around. Next time on Firing Line, we're going to have Gore Vidal.
I hate that guy.
We're going to have Allen Ginsberg and some other people that we're going to get up against the fucking wall on Firing Line with William F. Buckley. Now, anyway, so we're looking forward to South Carolina. Obviously, there's going to be more to talk about after that. So I guess maybe we'll update everybody then. Okay. So thank you so much for watching the episode. Once again, if you have a fucking idea for what we should call this series, talk about it in the comments down below. And if you like what we're doing here at Encyclopedia Zone, please go to patreon.com/HRC2020. The reward tiers and everything are all fucking messed up. I need to go in and update it. I'm working full time as a fucking baker while I put all of this stuff out. I'm trying to get writing and editing done. And it really does, like, every donation that we get on the Patreon helps me do less baking and more writing. So we really appreciate that. And is there anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming out?
No.
Okay.
Peace.
Peace out, everybody.